fidget with things while I'm talking. So, all right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Back to Bits Retro Gaming Podcast. My name is John Meadows. With me, as always, is D-Pad Danny. How's it going, man?
It's going well, man. How are you doing?
I am doing very well, thank you.
Well, that is good to hear.
Considering it's Friday night, and I drove 6 hours round trip for work to work an hour, so you got to love that. Good times.
That's always fun.
Hey, you know what? I got paid for 7 hours. 7 hours pay for an hour work. Whatever. I'll take it. Plus mileage.
Yeah. There you go.
People ask me why I love my job so much, and that's why I love it. So, but no, we're not here to talk about work. We're here to talk about retro video games and what's been going on. And we got quite a bit of news, but I want to start off like we always do with any kind of pickups or any new games we've gotten or playing or anything like that. Danny, you got anything new and exciting or?
Well, I mean, I pick up stuff pretty frequently, but I will say one I saw at my local game store that is uncommon that I don't ever see that I had to get was Wizard of Oz for the Super Nintendo.
Oh wow, yeah, that is uncommon.
Yeah, it was only $12. I thought it was really reasonable. I mean, it's for such an uncommon game. I was like, that's not bad.
I don't understand that. Why is some games that are very uncommon not expensive, but other games that are uncommon and more obscure expensive? I don't understand. Like Gunman,
there's too many variables. I mean, we've talked about this before, and the troubles of why it would be difficult to put together a blue book and all this other crap. But yeah, I picked that one up. I also picked up some N64 games. I got Pilot Wings 64. I've never played it, and I've never been a big fan of Pilot Wings for the Super Nintendo.
Yeah,
but I know a lot of people like that one.
Yeah.
And I got South Park for the N64 as well.
That's always a good one. I like the South Park game. I remember playing it and enjoying it.
Yeah, I mean, I picked up the PS1 version not long ago. Well, I guess it was probably about 2 years ago, actually, now that I think about it. But I picked up the PS1 version thinking it was going to be the same as the N64 version that I had growing up. It's just the first one that I came into contact with as an adult. And no, the controls are awful in the PS1 version.
Yeah, it's way different. It's ridiculous how different it is. It doesn't even make sense.
Exactly. I mean, and then, as you know, the N64 version uses the Turok the Turok control scheme. So yeah,
and I think that's why I like that one. I don't like a lot of N64 games, but Turok is one that I do like on the N64. So I think that's why the South Park one I kind of liked. Not being a South Park fan, but
no, I loved it back in the day, and I still do. I mean, it's a great show.
When it was first out, we all watched it, had a good laugh. But I don't think I've watched South Park in like 15 years, maybe. I don't know. It's been a long time since. The last one that I definitely remember watching was the World of Warcraft episode.
That's such a good. But you probably went out of your way to watch that.
Yeah,
because you heard about. Yeah.
Well, and at the time we were playing World of Warcraft, so of course we had to see what was going on with that. So.
And it was a great episode. They did a really good job, and they clearly had a lot of cooperation from Blizzard, which is really cool. Other than that, I know it's not retro, but I've been playing a little bit of Octopath Traveler.
Yeah.
Which is really good. I'm really enjoying it. For those of you who are wondering on the fence about getting it, I suggest it. D-Pad Danny says it's a good buy.
I like it. I've played a little bit of it. My only problem with it is I'm having a little hard time getting past the character models. I like the way I like the way the character models are done, but they have a blur to them. And even when you play it, I don't like the blur. The blur to me takes away from it. I get it on the corners. I get the blur on the ends, but I don't understand why you have to blur the character models too. Everything else is shiny, the words are shiny, but your character models are blurry, and it really, to me, it detracts from the game.
I don't know. I personally, I really dig the aesthetic. It's in a lot of ways, especially in the battle sequences, it kind of reminds me of Golden Sun almost. The way that the enemies and like the perspective of the battles and stuff like that.
I like all that. I like the graphics. I like the graphic choices. I just don't like the blurriness of the characters. It's like, bring out that pixel, that pixel art, make it look sharp. I don't want to see it blurred. And I thought maybe it was just because, I've been playing it in handheld mode. Maybe it's just a handheld mode thing. Then I dock it, and I'm got it on a 50-inch screen, and my characters are this big, and they're blurry as crap. And I'm like, it just takes me out of it. I don't know why. But I mean, I like the game overall. I like everything else about the game. It's fun. The story's great. The characters are cool. The gameplay is awesome.
Really neat mechanics with the weakness break system and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I like everything about it. That's just my one nitpicky complaint is I just don't care for the blur. I wish you could turn it off. If you could turn it off, I would be fine with that. I know you can turn off some of the blurriness on the sides to make it a little more open, but that doesn't bother me as much. It's just I don't like the character models being blurry. It's just, to me, it's off-putting when you got a word bubble that's crystal clear with the words in it, and then your guy's a little fuzzy. It's like it takes me out of it. But
I can understand. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
I was going to say, one more note on that. I guess if I had a one complaint on it is the music is really, really good, and the voice acting is really well done as well. But the audio levels, like sometimes you'll be going through a sequence and the people will be talking, you'll be listening, and the music's really nice. It really adds to the background. But then like 2 or 3 more harmonies or layers come in, and it just drowns out the audio from the dialogue.
And I haven't looked to see if you could turn down. I don't know if there's adjustments for it. I'm sure you can.
So.
I mean, most games do that anymore. I might have to cut it down just a little bit, even though I love the soundtrack of it.
Yeah, it's been enjoyable.
Yeah, let's see. They have, what is it? I think it's iTunes has the soundtrack. I don't think Amazon Music has it. It's like $8. It's the prologue soundtrack, but it's like 22 tracks. So I mean, it's got, I'd say, a lot of the tracks from most of the game on it. So
maybe we'll see it hit vinyl at some point. I'd pick that up.
Well, and it came with the what they call it, the Wayfair edition or whatever like that. And I almost picked up the Wayfair edition, but I didn't. The soundtrack was the only thing in the game I really wanted. So I was like, I don't see the sense in paying $40 extra for just the soundtrack. But yeah, speaking of newer games that are like that, I've been playing that Cosmic Star Heroine game.
Oh right,
man! I tell you what.
Did you get a download code for that?
Yeah, I got a review copy of it, a review code.
Cool.
It doesn't come out till I think the 14th of August or something like that. I'm about 7 or 8 hours into it. I love it. It feels like a Sega RPG, something like Phantasy Star or there's a bunch of those Genesis games, RPGs, but it really has a Phantasy Star vibe to it because it's kind of sci-fi, and when you walk, your guys follow you around, and the combat's kind of the same. But it's what's cool about it is it's a very laid-back RPG,
right?
Where you're playing and fighting. Probably way stronger than Black Tar. That's funny. But you're playing. You have a fight, and then after when the battle's over, sometimes you have to heal up and everything like that. This you don't. Once the battle's over and you start another battle, you're fully healed. Your magic points are back. It starts right over.
See, I like that. I like when games do that. Where they streamline it. They're like, here's all the stuff you enjoy about RPGs, and here's all the fluff. We're just going to throw that away.
Yeah, and it's totally like that. You don't have to. You can save it at any point. You just go in the menu and save. So wherever you're at in the game, you don't have to find a save point to do it. I think I haven't stopped playing it to play Octopath. This one's kind of. I don't know. It's weird. If you're a Final Fantasy N16 or N60 or N64 Super NES RPG fan, you're more of an Octopath. If you're more of a Sega RPG person, this one's probably more your thing. But you don't have to put a ton of time in it either. I mean, you don't have.
Yeah, I'd imagine with the streamlined gameplay, it's probably a much shorter game as a result.
It's not grindy. You're not, it's not like you have to walk around and I have to do all these dungeons to level up. It's just, it's perfectly boom, boom, boom. Go to the next area, you're good. Go to the next area, you're good. Go to the next area. You're good. The cutscenes are like something off of a Sega CD game, which is really sharp and cool. It's very cyberpunky, futuristic, space sci-fi. I really like it. I really dig it a lot. I think if you pre-buy it on Switch right now, it's like $13, which is a good deal. And I know they just announced sometime this year, Limited Run is going to bring it out. So
that's what I'm going to wait for, because I already ordered Saturday Morning RPG from them, and I think I'm going to have to get Cosmic Star Heroine because that looked really good.
Yeah, I'm definitely buying it to have a physical copy of it too. Probably, even though by the time that it comes out, I'll probably have played the crap out of it. I'm still going to buy it because I'll go back and play it again.
It's about the experience, and if you want to have a physical, you want to, you want to tangibly hold that experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they made it, if you got a PS4 or a PlayStation Vita, it's actually cross-buy on there, so you can actually play it on both, and it's cross-save compatible. So,
oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, so
you can just pick it up from either console and pick up your save file.
Yeah. Well, and if you buy it on PS4, you get it on Vita for free, and you get all the features with it too. So, if you don't have a Switch, it's perfect on the Switch, but it's perfect even playing on TV. I mean, let's face it, it's really good. And Saturday Morning RPG is a good one too. It's only maybe 5 or 6 hours. It's not a really long game, but
looks really lighthearted and just a fun experience.
It is, especially if you're a fan of the '80s. If you're an '80s fan, then it's definitely cool. But say anything else?
Huh? No, that was that. I was just about to ask you. I think we were both diverging back to the focal point. Yeah, did you pick up anything else other than the newer stuff you've been playing?
Oh yeah, I've picked up a lot. I'm just going to put this up here first because I got this.
That's your current pride and joy.
Yeah, if anybody's watching on the stream or the video, I'm holding up a marquee.
Hold it up a little higher.
Altered Beast.
There you go.
Out of an arcade machine, a guy on Facebook was selling this, and apparently he restores arcade cabinets, and for some reason he was selling this. I don't know if he wasn't going to do an Altered Beast arcade cabinet or what, but it's authentic. It is awesome. I'm going to get a light box, get a light box made to put it in and hang it up here somewhere, get some LEDs behind it.
That'll look sharp.
Yeah, I can't wait. And I've always wanted... I like the Sega arcade games because these are what what I grew up playing
a
lot of. So I would really like to find a Shinobi one. That's my next goal. So I told him to keep an eye out. So
Wise from Uruguay.
Yeah, so I used to have that on my phone. That's a sad thing.
That doesn't surprise me.
Let's see, what else did I pick up? I picked up a 32X lot. It was really strange. I was on Facebook Marketplace one night. I think it was a Friday night, and it was pouring the rain here. And somebody had listed a ton of Genesis games, and there was only like one or two of them that I wanted. So I thought, well, what I'll usually always do is if somebody lists a game, I usually go under their profile and see if they've listed any other games. And she had a 32X lot with, let's see, 6 games. 6 games, five of them boxed, 2 32X systems, and she wanted $30 or $50 for them. So I didn't even know what games they were. I mean, I noticed Motocross and Bridge Simulator, Star Trek Bridge Simulator, and I just told her, I said, I'll take them. Yeah. And I didn't ask her if they were complete or anything. And I said there was a couple of the Genesis games that you have I'd be interested in. I think she had, 20 or 30, and she only wanted $60 for them. But a lot of them were sports titles and stuff like that. And she said, well, what ones are you interested in? I said, Zombie Ate My Neighbors, The Fairy Tale Adventure, and Liberty or Death.
No, nice.
And she, so she gave them to me for $5 a piece, and they were all complete in box.
Wow.
Except Fairy Tales, the Fairy Tale was complete, but it was a photocopy of the manual, which is fine. Yeah. I don't care. The only reason I wanted it is I kind of like these weird. I've got one right here. These weird, obscure EA PC ports to the Genesis that look like this. They have the weird case,
the border and stuff. The Immortal is the same way.
Yeah. So usually when I see one of those, I try to grab it. Liberty or Death, I just got it because I was like, well, that's a weird one. That's an odd one too, an oddball one. And it was complete. It even had the poster, the Liberty or Death poster in it, which was pretty cool.
You should frame it and put it on your wall.
Yeah, really. And then the Zombies Ate My Neighbors, I only needed the instruction book out of it, so I ended up selling it to a buddy of mine. The 32X games were more interesting, though. They had she had Golf Magazine's 30 Greatest Holes.
32 Great Holes.
Yeah. Which 36, yeah. Which, fine, whatever. It's a box Genesis game, or a box 32X game. I'll
sure. Yeah, I have that one cart.
The Star Trek, like I said, the Starfleet Academy Bridge Simulator.
Don't got that one.
Shadow Squadron was one in the box she had.
I don't know. I don't know. I might have that one. I'm not sure.
Motocross, that one was complete in box, and then she had Doom with the game and instructions, which I already had it boxed. But the big one that I had no idea about it was, I don't even know how you say it exactly right, Colibri.
Colibri. Oh, yeah, that's Colibri. A beautiful game, man.
Yeah,
that's a pretty game to look at. Yeah, that was on my want list for a long time. I actually, quick rant if you don't mind.
No, go for it.
There was a dude on one of the Facebook trade groups that had it and a bunch of other stuff for sale, and I was like, well, dude, he knew he was trading, and I was like, I really want this. What could we work out? And he was looking for manuals, and I said, okay, well, I got a big stack of N64 and Super Nintendo manuals.
Yeah.
So I spread them all out. I said, this is all what I got. And went through the trouble taking all the pictures. He was picking out pieces. We were keeping a stack for him, and then he just flaked out. He just decided. He said, "Well, it's worth it. It's just I don't know if I want to. I think I want to trade it for something better." And I'm like, this dude just wasted my time.
Well, yeah, I hate that. I absolutely hate that. I had that today. I sent you a text message at 6:30 this morning and said, "Yeah, I may not be able to record because I may have to go pick up some games." And before I got home, I sent the guy a message like, "Well, I'm gonna go. Here he had." Spider-Man versus Kingpin and Echo the Dolphin for Sega CD for $10 for both of them together. $10.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and I was like, I'll take it. I didn't even question. It was just, yep, I'll take it. And this afternoon he sends a message like, well, I can't get a hold of the guy who actually has them right now, so I just took the post down. I'm like, wait a minute, you put something up for sale and you didn't even have it in your hand? All right.
That sounds like a line.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It sounds like a big line, so we'll see. But yeah, so I'd never heard of that game.
Yeah, it's neat.
I never played it, never knew anything about it. I never really paid too much of attention to 32X games when they were out. So yeah, I was like, well, this one's kind of cool. And then when I got to looking at the values of them, I'm like, oh, wow, that was really good in the box.
I think card only right now, that one's going for what, 60?
Something,
I want to say.
I think so. The box version's over 100, so I was pleased for a $50 purchase. And like I said, she had two 32X systems. One of them worked, one of them didn't. And I'd sent you pictures. I have that would make me 4 32X systems, and 2 of them didn't work. I really think it's a pin issue because the 2 that didn't work, the pins look funny in them. But the other ones that worked fine, the pins look normal. So I don't know if maybe first runs had these weird, cartridge slots or
low quality pins or something.
I don't know. But, I ended up selling the 32X and the Doom and the Zombies Ate My Neighbors to a buddy for what I paid for the lot. And
nice. Then you can't beat that.
Yeah, and then I sold the 2 broken 32Xs to a dude in the UK for $50, and he paid $50 to get them shipped to him. It was like,
and he knew they were broken?
Yeah.
He was buying them for parts?
He buys them. I got to look at his things that he sells, and he region mods them and puts AV cable ports in the back of them. Which I don't understand why you put the AV cords in the back of them. I guess to go straight out. I don't know. I don't. Yeah, the cord was hard to find, and the cords weren't with it. The power adapter was, but not the jumper cable, which you can buy those on eBay for $10. They're not. I don't think the ones on the $10 ones are original. But and then it came with that funky. I sent you a picture of it. I don't have it down here. That funky cord. It was a Genesis 1 cable on one end and a female Model 2 port on the back. I actually figured out what that was. Apparently, in later models, they didn't send 2 cables. They sent the main jumper cable for the Genesis 2, and if you had a Genesis 1, they sent the adapter with it instead of a whole nother cable.
Okay.
So it's
just what you have is the adapter.
Yeah, I have the adapter. So
gotcha.
I'm going to keep it. Because I have two Genesis. I have one for the Model 1 and one for the 2. So it's like, well, I'll keep it. That's kind of unusual. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Right.
But yeah, so that was a good day. We drove an hour, and I think it was an hour and 20 minutes. I mean, it was
in the pouring rain.
In the pouring rain to pick those up.
That's dedication right there. That's how you get the deals, boys and girls.
And it was like, when I saw the price on it and what they were, I told the wife, I said, I'm not messing around, because if I mess around, somebody's going to come in and go, oh, well, y'all already got somebody that's going to do $50 for them. Oh, well, I'll give you $75 and still come out better.
Yeah, I hate when people do that.
They do that all the time around here.
It's shady.
The only other thing that I did get a copy of Wonder Boy and Monster World on the Genesis.
I need to get that one myself.
We went to people had told me to go to this flea market it's called Rinks. It's almost like in an old Kmart building. The store was called Rinks. I have no idea anything about the company, if it was a local chain or what it was. But they have this big indoor flea market every weekend, and apparently there's a guy there who always set up. I mean, he has his own video game store in this little. He had tons of stuff, and the first thing out of his mouth was, if you see something, see something cool that you want, let me know. I'll cut you a deal on it. So he had Wonder Boy in Monster World. So I said $20, and he went, "Yep." Card only, so I took it.
Hey, still, I mean, it's worth it. That's a good one. Like I said, I still need to get that one.
Then I went on eBay, and bought the cover art for $12. So now I've got the box and the case. I just don't have the instruction book for it. So I've kind of gotten into that mode of, I really like box Genesis games, so I'll buy a bunch of empty boxes or crap sports games or something, and buy empty boxes, and then when I get a loose game, I'll go online, because there's tons of people online who are, and I don't know where they get them all, selling tons of just cover art, and it's like $3 or $4. I mean, to me, it's worth it. I've never had a problem with it. It's all been real good condition. They've been perfect. I don't know if somebody bought out Blockbuster or a local rental store or what, but man,
somewhere there's a warehouse of stacks of these things.
Apparently, because this is like the 5th or 6th time that I've bought off this one guy. That's how I got Batman Returns. I'm just looking here. Michael Jackson's Moonwalker.
Yeah.
I'm just going down this pitfall. Just what's sitting right here next to me. The Death and Return of Superman. I ended up buying another one of that, because the copy that I got was had water damage on the label of it. Oh, and I also got Life Force for the NES the other day. I picked that one up. So, but yeah, so that's all. We don't have we have one or two retro video game stores. Unfortunately, I had to tell one of the owners of one of the video game stores off, so I'm not going to go to that store anymore. So I was, well, fine, I'll just tell it. I showed up. They opened up at noon. They're in a mall. They're in an old mall. So I show up. I sit down. I wait until I get there early anyway. Get there about 11:30. They're supposed to open at noon. I wait till 12:30, and they're still not open yet. So I message them on their Facebook. I'm like, "Do you guys open? You guys still opening at noon? That's what it says on your door. That's what it says on Facebook. That's what it says on." And it said in Google actually said 11. And he was like, "Oh, I'm running late. I'll be there when I get there." I'm like, you've had like 20 people come by and just turn around. Well, there's more important things in the world than opening up a video game store on time.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, not if that's your business.
If that's your livelihood and you own a video game store, then that kind of is the most important thing.
So, yeah. So then he copped an attitude with me, and I was like, you know what? I've worked retail for 15, 16 years. I said I worked at a video game retro store, a mom and pop store, that I opened it up at 9 o'clock when they said open up at 9 o'clock. So, it's like, whatever. I was like, fine. I'm not giving you any of my business anymore. So.
Exactly.
But it's just like, really, that's your best, that's your best thing.
That's just bad business.
Yeah, that's and anybody that there was a guy on Facebook group that said, "Hey, I'm going to be in such and such area, which was close to here. Any video game stores you recommend?"
Don't go to this one.
I said, "Don't go to this one. I don't recommend them. I don't care how much stuff they have stacked up to the edges." And now they're posting on Facebook begging for people to come in. But you look at their Google reviews, it's like, nope. I'm not the only one that showed up at 11 o'clock and they weren't open.
They clearly don't care about the customer or establishing a clientele base.
I was angry because it was like, we only have one. Well, he's really about the only one left. The other one that was south of me closed. I didn't even know they closed. They closed sometime over the winter, and there's one right up the road here, but it's kind of a small one that doesn't have a whole lot. And I mean, they got good prices and stuff, but it's mostly just common stuff. I mean, I don't really know how they stay open because they just don't have a whole lot of high end stuff that. But I don't know. I live in a poor area, so maybe they do make a lot of money. They just sell a lot of common stuff that people usually don't have. I don't know.
It's possible.
It's weird, but. Yeah, so needless to say, I don't have a retro store to go to anymore anyway. So I do all mine on the Facebook. I get better deals that way.
Yeah, but when you factor in like the mileage and the time spent looking for it,
Well, that's true.
I pay for the convenience of being able to waltz into the store on my lunch break.
Well, but here's the thing. I drove an hour and 20 minutes to pick up those games for $50. Even if I wanted to go to that retro video game store, it's an hour away. So,
okay.
Anywhere.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, anywhere around here, I've got to go an hour anyway, so 20 more minutes is nothing.
Sure.
And that's the other thing. Now, if I really want to go to one, I have to go to Columbus, which is about 2.5 hours. So
it's unfortunate.
Yeah. So I mean, we just live in a small community. That it's just easier on Facebook than it is anything else. So usually, I try to lump it with something else if we're going, to the store or go to Sam's Club or
make it worth it. Gas, do other stuff in town or whatever.
Well, because if we want to go to Sam's, it's an hour drive. If we want to go to Target, it's an hour drive.
I got a Target 5 minutes up the road.
Yeah, I remember those days. well. We used to be within 10 minutes of 4 Targets.
Nice.
And now it's not like that anymore. It's back when I was a kid, but that's all right. So. Well, let's get into the news real quick. There was a couple of things I just wanted to touch on to kind of get the word out there on. I know on this show I have, and the other podcast, I have spoke highly of the Bitmap Books series of hardcover books that they bring out. They've had just recently they had Super NES and NES. Usually about every year they bring out one. This time it's the Sega Master System. There's 10 days to go on the Kickstarter. It has doubled the pledge goals. They were looking for 65,000. They're up to 121 already. Nice. I cannot speak enough about how great these books are. They are super, super awesome. They're from the UK, so they are a little more expensive if you're in the States. And shipping is a little more expensive, but I can't tell you how worth it is to have them in your collection, especially if you like books. Like I said, I've got the NES and the Super NES. I will be getting the Master System one. They have lots of cool perks, like they have a Sega Master System bookmark that looks like the sticker across the top of the Master System game. There's sections of the book that are in 3D, so they send 3D glasses with it so you could see those images in 3D. So it's like Space Harrier or Zaxxon, those 3D games. Mm-hmm. And they're just awesome games. They're books. They're high quality books. They come in slip cases. They're usually 300 or 400 pages. And essentially what they usually is, it usually gives you a little history, and then they have a bunch of collaborators that come in and write little small reviews on the games, and they give you a 1 or 2 page review of a game with cool pixel art, and the colors are nice. Super, super cool book. And I know I'll get it because they always send me review copies of them. So
you lucky dog, you.
Yeah. So if you want to know anything about the books, you can go to bitmapbooks.com. You can check out our website. I have reviews up of the past couple ones they've brought out. Another book that caught my eye that kind of came from out of nowhere is the company that did, I call it the Sega Bible, or the Genesis Bible. They did a huge book with like the history of the Sega Genesis. It has the blueprints to the system. It has a picture of every variation of the system and accessories, and they brought it out on Kickstarter a couple of years ago, and then they re-kickstarted it again to do a second printing of it. I can't remember what the thing is called right now. It's Read Only Memory is the publishers of it. But the new book that they've got out is actually a pop-up book of Sega arcade games. So it's like a pop-up of Space Harrier. You open it up, and the Space Harrier arcade machine pops up out of the book. There's pictures, there's history of the machine, and and stuff like that. And and the only two that they've shown is Hang On and Space Harrier. But I'm sure they'll have tons of others because Sega had so many arcade games back then.
It's pretty cool what they're doing with that.
Yeah, it is really, really neat. They also did a Dreamcast book that hasn't come out yet. I think it comes out in November that they kickstarted. But Read Only Memory does really, really good work too. The Genesis Continuum that I have is a fantastic coffee table book. I mean, it is unbelievable. It just has like 40 pages of nothing but pixel art of Sega characters from the games. Street Fighter, Golden Axe, Shinobi, Alex Kidd, all those kind of things. And they make a really, really good quality book. I think this one... let's see, there's a lot of the... let's see, yeah, they've almost hit their goal. They got 20 days to go. They need 52. Yep. They're at 48. They'll still make it.
Yeah, they'll get that in no time. That's not far off.
Yeah, it looks like 35 pounds or 35 euros.
About $46.
About $46. That's about the average for their books. And if you're interested in the Read Only Memory books, I highly recommend backing the Kickstarter because it
looks cool.
Yeah. Well, they may put out. They don't have a store where they keep stock. So usually once something sells out, they'll have a few copies of it when it comes out to sell, but once it's gone, it's gone. They usually don't reprint them again because that was the thing with the Genesis Continuum. So many people wanted that they actually just did another Kickstarter to do a second printing of it, and it funded fairly quickly too. So, but totally worth it, especially if you're a Sega fan. Those are two cool books. The next Kickstarter I want to talk about is an interesting Kickstarter. It's called the Modern Mallard. It's over. It failed. They were looking for $125,000. They only made $6,000 with 59 backers. What this was a mod kit that would allow you to play Duck Hunt on a LCD TV. It's a cool idea in theory. It's a small little chip that you actually take your light gun apart and pop it into the light gun. Then there's a chip that you pop open your cartridge and put in, so it will recognize that. There's two problems I had with it. One, you have to take too much stuff apart, and two, you actually had to modify the inside of the cart, which meant you had to cut some of the pieces to make that piece fit. Now, the one thing that they never made clear to me was, is this just for Duck Hunt, or will this work with any light gun game?
That's a good question, because depending on the way that it's built, if it's built specifically around the Duck Hunt chipset, and not necessarily for Gumshoe or Hogan's Alley or anything like that, that's a good question.
Yeah, they wanted $129 for it, which is way too much for just one game,
right?
Especially Duck Hunt, because I love Duck Hunt. Don't get me wrong.
But there's not a ton of replayability.
No, and there's not enough for me to pay $129 for when I can go get a Wii or a Wii U and download the virtual console version of it and play it with Wiimotes.
Right. And also, I think I think the big thing here is that that's going to take the time and have the know-how to mod their console, to mod the cartridge, to play on a HD TV, probably already has all the OG stuff. They probably have a CRT or a PVM that they use, and like you said, that much money for one game and a Duck Hunt of all games, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch the video, I mean, it's not hard to do the. Here, I'll put all the links to all the Kickstarters in the chat. It's not hard to do the gun modification, but it's like, man, you got to have a gun modification, and then you have to have a cart modification. And I know Duck Hunt copies are
a dime a dozen.
Yeah, a dime a dozen. But still, it's the point of having to destroy the inside of a cart to make something for one game work. Mm-hmm. I don't understand.
Doesn't seem worth it.
Well, and I don't understand why it had to be in the cartridge. Yeah. Why couldn't it have been made to plug into the cartridge just loosely and then go into the system? Why do you have to do it the opposite way? Which, I mean, I guess it doesn't. I don't know how the engineering behind how something like that works. I know it's all refresh rate and blah, 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 and tons of stuff that I don't understand because I'm not an engineer. So,
well, see, the reason why it's not detectable by modern TVs is that the refresh rate is too fast to where that little white block that the gun recognizes as the target doesn't stay on the screen fast long enough for it to detect it, rendering it useless.
It just seems like a lot of crazy stuff to have to go through just for one game. Like I said, if it was for other games, if I could use it on any light gun game, that'd be fine. But I think that's where, if it was for every other game, it should be an interchangeable, like your Famicom to NES adapter. It should be something like that I could just plug in.
Should be like a pass-through.
Yeah, a pass-through. That was what I was looking for.
Ideally, if somebody like Retrobit or somebody like that could like buy whatever patent, if he has a patent on it or whatever, and reverse engineer it, and if they could find out a way to just have it in the gun itself and sell the gun as a third-party peripheral that's compatible. But I don't know with the refresh rate issue. I don't know if they'd have to make something in the gun that detects the signal quicker, and then with something like that, you got to think, would it be triggered by outside interference if it's that, if it's triggered that easily?
Yeah, and I don't.
It's hard to say.
I'm trying to remember which Time Cop that was on PlayStation 3 that came with the light gun, and it had a crazy apparatus to make it work on an LCD TV. I'll never forget it. It had 2 sensors that you had to put at each corner of your television, and they had weights on the back of them, so it would balance out with a big rubber thing hanging over the back so it wouldn't fall off. So you had 2 cables, you had 2 sensors, 2 cables running down to 1 cable, running down into the control port, and then you had a gun going into USB. It was like a pain in the butt. But I mean, it was cool, but it was like $80, and you could only use it on one game. It was only that Time Cop game. Time Cop, I want to say it was Time Cop 3, but I can't remember now. It's been too long ago. I remember working at GameStop and seeing it. That's all I remember.
So basically, it was a Wii attachment for the PS3 with twice as many cables.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, and that's why that's why I say if I'm going to get if I want to play Duck Hunt that bad on a modern television, I will just go get a Wii U. You get a Wii U for $100 now, and that game's like $8, and everybody has at least one flipping Wiimote at this point. I think they were standard issue when you move into a new house. They have 2 Wiimotes waiting there for you.
These are your keychains.
Yeah. So, I mean, if not, they're super cheap online. I mean, way cheaper than having to mod but I mean, whatever. That's why I have this bad boy right here and that bad boy right over there to play. If I want to play light gun games, I've got 2 TVs, so no big deal. Something I found that was kind of interesting when I was looking for stories is they're remaking Alex Kidd in Miracle World. I don't even really know. This was an interview from June 19th. It's a 2-man team that is redoing it, kind of like what they've done with Wonder Boy And I don't know a whole lot about it, if it's going to be
officially sanctioned.
I don't know if it's just a fan project that they will bring out, and you can play it for free. If it's something that maybe they're going to develop and hope that Nautilus or Sega or somebody will kind of take notice and go, hey, we'll pick
we
that
like
up,
the
pay
cut
for
of
the
your
right.
jib.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing right out of left field, but it looks
beautiful,
super sweet. And I'm just kind of glancing through because, like I said, I didn't finish reading all of it. But if you want to see, there's an interview that a website did. This a certain kind of gamer.com did with the two guys that are doing it. They'll be in the show notes on the website. You could check it out. It looks really cool. I hope it. It said they don't have a release date, but it will be released on PC. So it may be one of those things that's just hey, here's a fan remake of a game. Download it while you can before Sega comes and says cease and desist. So
either way, it's a nice looking game as far as like the screenshots, and they have a couple animated GIFs of some of the enemies as well. It's looking pretty nice, especially for just two guys, like you said.
Yeah. Very, very cool. So, but yeah, it so reminds me of the Wonder Boy remake. That it's almost scary. So, also E3 was a couple of weeks ago. There's usually not a ton of retro news that comes out of E3. I know Hyperkin always has a booth set up there showing off new Bluetooth controllers or whatever, the Retro 77 that they got and all that. But Polymega was there, and they had playable demo units of their Polymega system. For those who don't know what the Polymega system is, it is a CD-based system, and it's modular. So what you do is you buy the CD-based system, and out of the box it plays TurboGrafx CDs, Neo Geo CD, PlayStation 1, and Sega CDs, and it plays the original.
Does it play Sega Saturn as well?
No, it does not do Saturn.
Does not do Saturn?
No, okay. Not at the moment. Saturn is so hard to emulate that there is not a lot of really decent emulators out there for it.
They used a lot of different textures and meshed stuff instead of transparencies. Yeah. And that would be...
Well, and that system was never meant to be quote-unquote 3D. It was supposed to be like the ultimate 2D powerhouse. And then PlayStation 1 came out and they went, wait a minute, we've got to do 3D.
But it was the wave of the future, man.
Oh, yeah. And now everybody's doing 2D again, so go figure. But it's $249.99. That's the base CD module. And like I said, you'll be able to play original discs in it. It'll come with a wireless controller, but I don't think the CD unit will let you play with the original controllers. I think the modular base systems will. They're $59.99. So if you want Genesis, you pay $60. You clap the Genesis on there, and you can play Genesis games. If you want the Super NES, $60, Super NES. And each one of them, I believe, each one comes with a controller that looks something like its counterpart. And they're usually, I think those are all wired. But the wireless controller that comes with the system itself kind of looks like a PlayStation 4. It's got that same kind of
the wings and
stuff, and the sticks next to each other and things. So it looks fantastic. There is tons of RPG site.net did an interview with them at E3, so there is tons of information on it. It'll have an SD card in the slot in the back of it, so you'll actually be able to dump all your games onto it, so you don't have to put discs in and out of it, which is nice. It has a real nice interface. It has a direct app built into it, so you can stream to Twitch or YouTube through the system, kind of like you can with the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. Share clips on Twitter, all that kind of stuff of a modern console with
retro
in it. And like the Neo Geo CD, is the load times on the Polymega for those are like 33 seconds, whereas on the Neo Geo CD, some of them were like a 3-minute load time. It was ridiculous.
Those fighting games that in between every scene it had to load, and it was like a minute and a half each time. It's ridiculous. One thing that I think is pretty cool, and I know it's just a little thing, but did you see the TurboGrafx module? Did you see it has 2 controller ports?
Yep, it sure does.
It's the little things, man. Yeah. It's the little things.
Absolutely. But you could do 4x3, 16:9, HDMI. There's RGB filters, so you can do scan lines, or you could do a composite filter, so it looks more like it's coming through a composite cable if you want to get that old-time retro feel of playing on a crappy CRT with the whatever. But I mean, it is a really, really cool thing. I don't know if I'm willing to dish out the money for it.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait on it, but it looks really cool. It's got a sleek kind of almost 80s retro design, like it's just the little symbol that they use is almost like the Polaroid symbol, so it's like it's familiar, it's sleek, it's sexy, it looks nice, and if it's as functional as it's supposed to be, and the operating system and everything is user friendly and all that, I think it'll do well.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people are going to be waiting for it to come out. I think a lot of people are a little gun shy after the Coleco Chameleon.
Yeah.
I can't freaking talk today, but yeah, I mean, it looks really cool, but I don't know. I mean, I already have all those consoles except for like the Neo Geo CD.
I do too, but I kind of, you kind of go, it's cool, and it's kind of like, well, if I want to play them on a modern TV, I have to take my systems, RGB them. Some of them I have to RGB modify, like the NES. Then I have to get a FrameMeister or something else like that, which is running in the $400 to $500 range now. So I mean, I guess if I was starting out and wanted to start collecting, maybe I would be. But it does PAL games too. It does Japanese games. So I mean, you got every region covered, which is cool. $250 is a lot cheaper for the base unit than I thought it was going to be. I figured it was going to be more around the $300 to $350 range.
Right.
I knew they said the modules were going to be no more than $60, which is good. But man, it's like when you think about, I actually had totaled up the price because it's NES, Super NES, TurboGrafx, and Genesis. 6 times 4, that's $240. So $500 would get you the entire, pantheon of everything you could do with the system.
Sure.
Which, I mean, for the price of a FrameMeister alone, if you want to play on a modern TV, it's
wouldn't be a terrible way to go.
No, it wouldn't be a terrible way to go. And they said that they're hoping to do an N64 modular for it. They're going to try to maybe even do Dreamcast for it.
That would be cool.
They'd like to do Saturn, but it's getting really hard to do. It's hard to do it, so they've got to figure it out. But plus they got to wait for patents to expire on some of the newer stuff too. So
I imagine so.
I know Dreamcast, I think, is still under patent. Saturn should be, N64 should be up in a year or two, if I remember right, or maybe already up. It's usually only, I think, a 20 or 25 year patent, something like that. So the other thing that kind of came from out of nowhere, 8-Bit Do, or 8-Bit Do, however you want to say it. People say Do, some say Do, I say 8-Bit. I use their controllers. I have all their wireless Bluetooth controllers for the NES and the Super NES. I bought the adapters for the retro consoles so I could use them. I like the wireless features of them. Even have their controllers for the adapters for the mini classics that they have out.
Right.
And they now have do-it-yourself Bluetooth controllers. What these are is you buy a chipboard that goes into the controller. You actually take a original, real NES controller, take out the gut, put the new gut in, screw it back together, and you're good to go. It has a battery on the back of it. It has a little Bluetooth dongle thing that actually comes where the wire would come out, and that also charges it as well. It has a proprietary charging cable that actually plugs into that Bluetooth port and will charge it. They have them right now for the NES, the Super NES, and the Genesis. They also have them for the you can get them for the Mini, the NES Classic, and the Super NES Classic. So if you want to take those new controllers and swap out the Bluetooth, swap them out for Bluetooth, you can. The only thing that you would need to buy is, of course, the Bluetooth adapters for the Super NES or the NES if you want to use them on classic consoles. But you can use them on PC, you can use them on phones, you can use them on PlayStation 4, you can use them on RetroPie, pretty much anything that has Bluetooth. This is a really super, super cool idea. I like it. They're $20. They're very cheap, and it's easy to do. I mean, it's literally a board swap, and that's it, which takes like 5 seconds. The only thing that aggravates me is they have one for the Genesis, but they do not have a Bluetooth controller for the Genesis system, or adapter. If they had that, I would so buy that. The other thing that bums me out is shipping is expensive. These guys don't have they don't have a U.S. distributor, so they're coming direct from China. So if you just want like the Genesis One or the Mega Drive controller, it's $20, and then it's $18 just to ship it. So I'm hoping that maybe these will pop up on Amazon in a few weeks. We'll see.
I would imagine so. I think a lot of online retailers and even brick and mortar stores will probably be ordering these in bulk because it's gonna do well. The modern player has gotten spoiled, let's face it, for wireless. Everything's wireless. Controllers, with cords, it's an inconvenience for a lot of people. So I think this is something that's going to do well. So I wouldn't be surprised if you started, like you said, seeing it pop up in people's marketplaces.
Yeah, and they carry, Amazon carries the 8-bit DOE controllers. That's where I got all mine from. And their regular controllers are great controllers. I mean, they are one-to-one exact replicas. And I've been playing with them for over a year, maybe almost 2 years now, and I have never had any issues with them. I don't have any lag. They feel just like a real NES or Super NES controller. I like them a lot, but to be able to actually use a real, genuine controller with it is a pretty cool idea, and I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to beat whoever it is. I forget who it is. It's going to have all the Bluetooth controllers for like the Dreamcast and Retrobit, I think is who it is.
Yeah, it might be.
I can't remember now off the top of my head, but yeah, I mean, I think they're trying to beat them to the market with a cheap alternative to Bluetooth controllers, because Retrobit still hasn't said how much those controllers are going to be. So we don't know if they're going to be.
I'm sure they're going to be at least 40 plus.
Oh, I'd say. I mean, even the 8-bit DOE controllers, I think, are 30 or 40, maybe 50. I don't know, but yeah, if they would bring out, I have tons of Genesis controllers. I've got a few Super NES controllers laying around. I've got a couple of NES controllers laying around. If they would bring out an adapter for the Sega Genesis that I use, I would be swapping them puppies out like nobody's business.
Sure.
Plus, you can get them. You can get controllers pretty cheap these days. Even at yard sales, you can find them for $5. So
right.
I mean, they're not too bad at all. Last little bit of news I just want to put out there. Wings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros. I don't know how you say that. But he's on Instagram. He's also on Twitter under Cliff's Console Repair. This guy, Cliff, he is a modder. He does system modifications. He also does repo carts and things like that. He has started a project to make a legitimate console-based version of the Game Gear using real Game Gear guts.
I'm excited about this.
Yeah, his goal is to either sell enough pre-orders to get a few out there, or he's eventually going to start a Kickstarter either way to finish them out. He has, oh my gosh, I think he has like 60 or 70 Game Gears he has tore apart and completely taken all the caps off of them. He's in the process of recapping them all, and it's just him, so he's doing them all by himself. But he's got it all figured out to exactly what he wants to do. Is he wants to make a Game Gear that looks like a small Master System, so you can just plug your Game Gear games in and play them on a regular television.
Right.
It'll have RGB out, it'll have component out, or composite out, and it'll also use the HD Retrovision component cables. It'll have 2 control ports. The system will come with 2 controllers. Well, actually, it'll only have 1 control port because that's all it would support, but he'll have a daisy chain. He can daisy chain them together. There's an adapter that you can buy that'll let you take 2 and put them into 1. I forget all of it. If you go search for him on Instagram, in fact, here you go. I'll put the link in the chat here so you can see. He says he's doing pre-orders, but at the moment right now he is not, because he is actually in the process of getting a new job. So right now he's just going to get it together. The price is going to look around $300. They're going to do 2 different. He's going to do 2 different versions. He's going to do one that's all put together and ready to go, and then he's going to have a do-it-yourself version. So the casing will be 3D molded. It won't be like a 3D printed job and then glued together. He's looking to get it molded and made. He's even working with a programmer to get a couple new Game Gear games made.
That'd be cool. He's
hoping to have one pre-installed on the system, so you'll have a game on it like the old Master System did with the had Hang On and Safari Hunt there at the end with them built into the system. They'll have the controllers will have start buttons on them, so you can pause and start. You can use Genesis controllers with it if you want to.
Right.
It's really good. It's a really, really cool thing. He's supposed to send me a prototype unit as soon as he gets one done. With him not with his new work thing, I think what we're going to do is he's just going to send me a modified Game Gear right now to kind of get the word out, do some streams, do a little reviews just to get the word out, and then the Kickstarter will commence. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be something really, really cool, and it's going to be, I don't want to say it's going to be a limited run or a short print thing, but it's not going to be really, really long. It's not going to be something that's probably going to be available all the time, just for the pure simple fact that Game Gears are really hard to come by that are working,
especially working condition. Like, you can find them here and there, but whether or not they work, there's always some sort of technical issue with them.
It's those capacitors. Well,
they use cheap. They use like cheap capacitors with like fish oil, right?
Yeah, something like that. I donated 2 of the ones that I had that I was going to recap myself, and it's just more than I can do. So I sent them to him, and he actually sent me back pictures of them, and just the caps in them had exploded. And I didn't even know.
Sure.
All I knew was the screens wasn't working on it. That's it. So, but all right. Well, that's all for the news. I just figured we'd have just one little quick. I hate just to have just news all the time. I like to have a little talking topic if we got time. But we thought maybe we would do like just a quick RPG memories. What's your favorite RPG? What got you into the genre? What brought you to the table? What system did you like? Go ahead, Danny. I'm going to let you go first, because everybody's probably going to know mine anyway, because I wear it on my sleeve.
Well, I mean, like, the first RPG I think I was ever made aware of was Dragon Warrior. My dad got the free copy in the mail, as so many others did, early adopters of Nintendo Power, right?
Right.
And so I was aware of that, but I was young. I didn't understand it. The first RPG I remember actually having an interest of and seeing it in action was Final Fantasy II for the Super Nintendo, which is still probably my favorite Final Fantasy game. I remember my dad playing it, and I remember at one point he tried to get my mom to play it. So I remember my mom, who only ever played Tetris and Dr. Mario and Mario Kart, playing a freaking Final Fantasy game. It's wild to think about. But that's really where I got my start. And then when I started getting more into games in like 4th and 5th grade, when I actually really started getting interested, I remember it was the time of Final Fantasy VI. It was the time of Chrono Trigger, Super Mario RPG, Earthbound. There was just for someone just breaking into the genre, it was just a smorgasbord of games out
Mm-hmm.
there to choose from. My favorite of all time, of course, is Earthbound because I adore the game. I
Yeah.
love it. I fell in love with it as soon as the first time I played it, and I I've beaten it so many times, and it just I don't want to say it doesn't get old because every game gets old if you play it
I
consecutively.
guess if you play it consecutively.
Well, yeah, like
There's some games
if
I've
you
played for 35 years that I've never get tired of.
well, no,
So.
sure, like I revisit I revisit it frequently, but
Yeah.
it's just got that something that I
Yeah.
love, man.
Yeah.
It's good.
It is. Yeah. It's good and it's weird. It's different.
Yeah, it's like me.
Yeah. Like all of us. I mean, we're all different.
Yeah.
Mine's a little different. It was 1987 or 88. I was 10, 11 years old at the time. NES was the big thing. I got a Sega Master System because they had a Ghostbusters game that I thought was just really really cool. It was so much cooler than the
Right.
NES version. So it's like, okay, well that's what I want. If I can only get one, that's what I want. And I remember renting a game called Phantasy Star. Had no idea what it was, nothing about it. Everybody was all on the NES hype train of Final Fantasy. Look at this game. There's no other role playing game like Final Fantasy. This is the greatest
Right.
game we've ever played. It's so good. And then Phantasy Star came out and it had 3D dungeons in it.
Yeah.
And I was blown away. I was blown away by the story. I was blown away by the dungeons and how you could get lost in there by just because every time you turn, it almost always
Hmm.
looked the same. It was the first game that I ever played that I would actually go into a dungeon with one hand and had a pad with paper in the other.
Right.
And
Had to
literally,
grid paper maps.
yeah, well, I would actually be playing while I'm moving. Okay, and I took a left, and then I immediately take a left with the paper, and then take a right, and then be like, okay, there was a doorway here. Let me X this so I can go back. And I mean, it was so good. And then the Genesis came out. And mom and dad never bought me the original Phantasy Star game because that game was like $95 when it came out.
Yeah, it was expensive when it came out.
Yeah, but they knew every Friday I would go to the rental store and I'd just keep renting
Sure.
it. And nobody else was renting it because it still had my save on it. So I eventually beat it. And when I got the Genesis, I want to say it was February of 90. I think it came out, in 89? And then 90 was on. Anyway, I got it right after launch for my birthday anyway. And why so much? Because the cartridge was a high ROM cartridge. It was like 4 megs at the time.
Hmm. Yeah, it was technically speaking, if you stack that side by side with any other RPG of the day, your Dragon Warrior, your Final Fantasy, your Ultima, it's leaps and bounds ahead of it on a technical standpoint.
And
Colors, sound, the dungeons, it's beautiful.
And that was wise because the ROM chips that they used were so big and expensive at the time. Then when the Genesis came out, my mother actually bought me Phantasy Star 2 that Christmas. And that game was $100 all day long. What was really cool with it was she bought me the strategy guide, which I still have Phantasy Star 2 came with the strategy guide. It had a book shrink wrapped to it, which I still have the book. I still have the game too, but that game just absolutely blew my mind in every way, shape, and form.
Yeah.
I would say of all of them, that one was probably my favorite. I really liked 4 a lot because it had multiple endings. But that game was over $100 too when it came out, and it kind of came out at the end of the Genesis age, and I didn't really play it because I was just starting college, and I really didn't have time for a role-playing game of that caliber.
Sure.
But yeah, 3 came out. I got that for Christmas. I still have the strategy guide for it. It's a huge strategy. It's super hard to find the strategy guides.
Really?
But the Phantasy Star games were the ones that was the series that got me into RPGs. I never played a Final Fantasy series until Final Fantasy VII on PlayStation 1. That was the first Final Fantasy I ever played. Because I didn't have an NES, I didn't have a Super NES until maybe 15, 17 years ago. So
sure.
Then I went back and bought the Final Fantasy games and played them. Went, okay, yeah, these are really cool.
I can see the appeal.
Yeah, I understand this. Yeah, I understand what they're talking about. But I still like Phantasy Star of all of them. Traditional Phantasy Star. I love me some Phantasy Star Online. It's very, very cool and different. Fun to play with friends. But I still like that retro classic Phantasy Star. And that goes back to the beginning. That's why I like that Cosmic Star Heroine so much, because it plays like Phantasy Star. Not as hardcore as Phantasy Star,
sure,
but it has that feel of Phantasy Star that I can't put it down. And that's the kind of RPG I've been wanting for a long, long time. You say, rest in peace, Phantasy Star Online servers. If you have a Dreamcast, you can still play Phantasy Star online on the Dreamcast. You can do it two ways. If you have the broadband adapter, it's way easier, but it's a lot more expensive, which I happen to have one that I bought years ago when they were $50. Or you could pay, I think, $70, and it's a RetroPie version that goes from 56K to broadband. I don't know a lot of details about it. I follow the guy on Twitter that does it. And there's actually because of that, there's actually a huge resurgence of Phantasy Star Online on the Dreamcast. There's ways to play it on the GameCube too. A lot of people run private servers on the GameCube. I just wish I had never sold my broadband adapter for the GameCube. That was the biggest. When the Wii came out, I was like, it plays GameCube games. I don't need it anymore. Sold all that crap. Kept my games, but sold my system and my thing, everything. But and I have just not sat down and configured my broadband adapter to actually play Phantasy Star Online. But I have a itch to do it. It's just finding the time. That's the big thing.
What it's all about, man.
Yeah.
It's like when you're younger, you don't have money, so you play the same games, the same 5 games over and over and over and over again. And as an adult, you have the money so you can buy the games, but you just don't have that time you had as a child to sink, 8 hours a day into an RPG, unless you're like a professional streamer or something like that, where that's your main income. I mean, you just don't have the time to do it.
But I really want to get to Phantasy Star up and going on the Dreamcast. I want to get some guys together and I want to play it and stream it.
Well, hey, I tell you what, if you pay to get my Dreamcast set up to go online and play it, I will play that with you.
Don't tempt me. My wife will not be happy with you. But yeah, I mean, I have the broadband adapter. I got real lucky with the Dreamcast stuff when it was going out. Everybody else was throwing it in the trash, and I was just, give it to me. I'll take it. I'll buy it. I'm scooping it up for nothing. Yeah. I mean, I got that broadband adapter for, like I said, I think $20 or $50 or something like that. I paid nothing for it, so next to nothing for it. So anything else before we sign off that you can think of, Danny? Anything going on next week that you want people to check out?
Is there?
I don't know.
I don't know. You have me second guess myself. No, nothing really comes to mind. Just
I didn't know if you're doing any special streams or anything like that. Anything out of the ordinary.
Planned right now. No.
Okay. All right. Cool. Always like to check. Keep up with that.
I appreciate that.
You could check out Danny. Let's see. Was it twitch.tv/dpaddanny? If you're watching us on Twitch right now on the Gamers Lounge, you already know the Gamers Lounge Twitch, so you're good. You can email us, retro@the-gamers-lounge.com, if you have any questions, comments, topics, anything like that. I just opened up a Teespring store where we have Back to Bits t-shirts as well as Gamers Lounge t-shirts. I've got Gamers Lounge Podcast, Gamers Lounge, Back to Bits. You can buy coffee mugs, you can buy t-shirts, you can buy vinyl stickers, anything that you buy goes right back into helping pay for funds for the podcast, for the site, for Twitch streams, upgrading equipment, all that kind of stuff. It really helps us out a lot. So it's teespring.com/stores/the-gamers-lounge-store. They use more hyphens than I do, and I use a ton. But yeah, we will catch you guys in a couple weeks. I've got a lot of work out of town, so I don't know when we will be able to record again. I've got to go to Indiana and Cleveland and Columbus and maybe Virginia, and so we will we'll have another stream show at some point, maybe another month before we have a stream. But you know what? If it's just once a month,
that's how we do, man.
That's how we roll. I'm fine with that. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Thanks so much for checking out the stream, and we go catch you guys next time.
Take care.